Welcome to the Institute of Commonwealth Studies and to Senate House. This is the final session of the first day of our Commonwealth Media Freedom Conference, and we're delighted to be able to conclude it with a keynote speech by the Commonwealth Secretary General, Baroness Scotland, and this is also our annual Peter Lyon Memorial Lecture. Let me just begin by saying something about Peter, for those of you who didn't know him or aren't familiar with the name. Dr. Peter Lyon joined the Institute of Commonwealth Studies here in 1969, and he served as its academic secretary until his retirement in 1995. Now, academic secretary is a rather unusual term in academia. Maybe difficult to define, but I think for many people who knew him, they would say that Peter was the heart and soul of the Institute of Commonwealth Studies for a very long time. Many people I speak to still remember him very, very fondly, and he was an absolute encyclopedia of knowledge of the Commonwealth and cared deeply about the institution. And he would have been delighted, I think, by this conference today, and delighted and honoured that Baroness Scotland is speaking in this lecture in his honour. He served as editor of the Round Table from 1982 to 2003, and really revitalised that journal and made it again a key part of international relations. So on his death we decided to establish this annual series of lectures, and we've had a series of distinguished politicians and historians speaking, but this is the first time we have had the Commonwealth Secretary General speaking. But then Baroness Scotland's career is really a series of firsts. She was born in Dominica, but moved to the UK as a small child and was educated here. She obtained an external University of London LLB law degree, so we're very, very proud to count her as an alumni of the University of London. She was called to the Bar, Middle Temple in 1977, and to the Dominican Bar the following year. And here's the first of the firsts. She was the first black woman to be made a Queen's Counsel in 1991. Then under the Blair and Brown governments, she had a distinguished political ministerial career. First as Parliamentary Under Secretary of State of the Foreign Office, then as Parliamentary Secretary in the Lord Chancellor's Department, from 2003 as Minister of State in the Home Office, and then in 2007 Prime Minister Gordon Brown appointed her Attorney General, the first woman to hold that post in its long history. And then, of course, at the Malta Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in November 2015, she became the first British citizen and the first woman to be elected Commonwealth Secretary General in its 66-year history. So we are delighted and honoured to have her today to speak to you at the end of this conference on media freedom. Baroness Scotland.
Thank you very much for that very generous and kind introduction. And I almost would like to say, and we go straight on to the drinks, because I understand you've had a very long and very tiring day. And therefore, I hope that what I have to say will be by way of a wrap-up for many of the topics that you've already explored. And can I just say, as the first Dominican to to hold this post. I'm particularly proud to be able to speak to you. A year ago today, I arrived at Marlborough House as Secretary General of the Commonwealth to take up the responsibilities entrusted to me by the then 53 heads of government. And a week later, in one of my very early engagements as Secretary General, I addressed the triennial conference of Commonwealth Journalists Association. And many of those present here today were at that gathering, so happy first anniversary. It would therefore seem that April is coming to be our Commonwealth month to focus on media freedom, and I really welcome that, so long as we use it as a booster station for Commonwealth's vigilance and collective action every day of every week of every month to defend media freedom and to protect the safety and independence of journalists and other media practitioners. So I really want to commend and welcome the initiative of the Institute of Commonwealth Studies in convening this conference. And I'm delighted to see such an impressive level of participation by many of whose faces are familiar to me and many others who I have not yet had the pleasure of meeting, but I hope after this event we'll be able to do so. A year ago, I expressed my determination to put the Commonwealth back at centre stage as we act collectively to uphold democracy, advance development, and really celebrate diversity. I said that to do so, freedom of expression as a human right, guaranteed to all in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, would be absolutely fundamental prerequisite. And I quoted our Commonwealth Charter, which states, and I quote, "We are committed to peaceful, open dialogue and the free flow of information, including through a free and responsible media, and to enhancing democratic traditions and strengthening the democratic processes." Now my observation then, and I make no apology for repeating it today, was that journalists hold a special place in the Commonwealth family as the eyes, the ears, and the voice of our citizens. Print journalists, broadcasters, and other media commentators see the need of people at every level of society, tell their news, understand their hopes and dreams, speak for them, and make their story known. Some would describe them as giving the heart to the aspirations of the people. So vibrant and responsible media are vital to advancing our Commonwealth goals for democracy, development, rule of law, and respect for diversity. Journalists have a special power of holding governments to account in between elections and keeping public figures, both people and numbers, under scrutiny so that we can understand better how our countries are working, or, just as importantly, not working. And as I said last year, good reporting educates and empowers Commonwealth citizens to be effective participants in political discourse and to make informed decisions about the future of their countries and their local communities. And I also pointed out that it is not only those who are directly on the receiving end of poor or inaccurate reporting who are let down by bad journalism. With the global reach of media today, If there is loose and sloppy reporting or expression of opinion in one part of the world, it can be cited by undemocratic governments or regimes in another as justification for what they are trying to stop locally, when in reality they are launching something far more sinister and repressive. So balanced public debates are a liberty that everyone should enjoy, and many countries, even so-called advanced democracies, struggle to have such balanced debates. And in fact, this is a growing rather than a receding threat. Transformation of our world and of the communities in which we live is what we all aspire to when we come together as a Commonwealth. Our vision is to share the common good. And as I've said many times, I want to put the wealth back into Commonwealth, but I want to put the common back into wealth. Wealth means more than money. It's all that enriches our lives and our communities, all that makes for a fairer, more peaceful, more inclusive, and more sustainable world. And I want now to say something about the current state of media freedom in the Commonwealth's terms of SWOT. That's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Among the strengths are the vigilance and dedication of people such as yourselves, and the overlapping and mutually reinforcing networks, formal and informal, through which you communicate and offer support. These augment and underpin high-level action, such as the leader's statement from the 2015 Trouble in Malta, which expressed a commitment for a strong role for the Commonwealth in championing the implementation of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, including, and I would highlight it, of course, being a lawyer, global SDG 16, Goal 16, to provide access to justice for all and build accountable institutions. And I recently convened the 50th meeting of the Commonwealth Ministerial Action Group, which was set up in 1995 by the Commonwealth Heads of Government in New Zealand to deal with persistent and serious violators of the Commonwealth's shared principles. And since then, it has been progressively strengthened, and among the 8 circumstances that would trigger the group's interest and potential engagement with member countries are the systemic denial of political space, such as through detention of political leaders, or restriction of freedom of expression, assembly or expression, and significant restrictions on the media or civil society. And it's through such approaches that we are able to use our innate sense of kinship and affinity to leverage real change in the Commonwealth. And we, I believe, are well placed and have connections and mechanisms that can help us devise shared approaches to the challenge we jointly face. And that's why I'm pleased to know that members of the Commonwealth Journalists Association and the Commonwealth Press Union Media Trust, together with representatives from other Commonwealth organisations, for lawyers and other professions, are examining the possibility of Commonwealth declaration on the media and the governance, with a view to establishing mechanisms for assessing and helping to deliver remedies for serious and persistent breaches and violations. This might eventually lead to something similar to our Commonwealth doctrine of the separation of powers, generally better known as the Latimer House principles. These speak of government accountability being promoted by an independent and vibrant media which is protected by law in its freedom to report and comment on public affairs. Indeed, for those of us hoping to move towards adopting distinctive Commonwealth principles on the media in line with the normative framework of international human rights law, the process by which the Latimer House principles came into being, is a really encouraging example of how our Commonwealth works. The original proposal for the Latimer principles, as many of you will remember, emanated from a small, informal ginger group of experts within the Commonwealth's professional organisations. I think some in this room may remember that really well. Their ideas were taken up and developed more widely, including within the Commonwealth Secretariat. Ministerial buy-in then led to the adoption of the principles by the Commonwealth heads of government. And there is nowhere, I believe, in our world today where those principles aren't known, acknowledged, and applauded. So this progression shows just how, working together, we can build on Commonwealth connection at multiple levels, and the goodwill and the ease with which we can interact, thanks to the similarities of our systems and institutions, combine to create what we call Commonwealth advantage, in this as in so many other areas of activity. And most importantly, it demonstrates how Commonwealth convening power leads to global impact. And in order to make more of the Commonwealth advantage and convening power, we need mechanisms to facilitate cooperation and collaboration, which is why I've created the Commonwealth Office of Civil and Criminal Justice Reform, to build on our shared inheritances of the common law, similar legislature and judiciaries, and comparable or even interoperable systems of regulation. So the purpose of the office is to craft templates for legislation and best practice across a broad range of disciplines and fields of activity, including the media and freedom of expression, and also encompassing anti-corruption, procurement, and many other areas relating to public and corporate conduct. Our Commonwealth Charter expresses those aspirations, which are also our inspiration. And it's a really pleasing congruence, and we would like to think not entirely chance correlation between the articles of the Commonwealth Charter adopted by our heads of government in 2012 and the goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development agreed in 2015. The 16 articles of our Charter, with the addition of the overarching Commonwealth principle of partnership, which we therefore include in our preamble, match almost precisely the 17 sustainable goals of the 2030 Agenda. And SDG 17 is at the end of the UN SDGs, but they're right at the beginning and influence everything we do within the Commonwealth as a result of our Charter. SDG 16 reminds us that, and I quote, "A free press is closely linked to access to information and the protection of human rights, but the trend in this regard is discouraging. A total of 61 journalists died in 2016, simply for doing their jobs, according to the Press Freedom Barometer complied by Reporters Without Borders. 61 journalists. And this really is a very serious indictment of our collective efforts to build for a safer and more inclusive future. Our media freedom and upholding rights of expression, as much as on anti-corruption procurement, creating best practice toolkits, empowering our member governments to uphold and continually strengthen the protection of rights and freedoms and transparency in their jurisdictions. So we need to work together at multiple levels to enable our shared Commonwealth vision to be realised. And this conference shows that process of cooperation and mutual support in action. So we have to recognise as weaknesses the appalling number of recent cases of murder and brutality that often take place within systematic persecution of journalists and bloggers. When such outrages occur, they contribute to the pervasive atmosphere of terror and fear. And it's incumbent, therefore, upon states to investigate promptly and impartially such violations and to conduct a thorough examination of the systemic nature of patterns of the violations and abuses and how they occur in order for us to secure accountability and provide effective remedy and instill confidence in the public institutions amongst citizens. So this is also an escalation in state intervention. We can see it happening to control or curb the freedom and autonomy of the internet, with interventions to limit editorial freedom, whether as a result of corporate, party political, or government diktat. And closely aligned to such constraints is the contemporary phenomenon of manufactured news and facts that are fake or of contestable veracity. So replication of such reports from unreliable sources distorts not only understanding of political developments, but undermines public trust in all sources of information and contributions to public discourse. So an underutilised opportunity is the presentation of a united Commonwealth voice at the UN. The Human Rights Council regularly debates the safety of journalists, having adopted resolutions most recently in 2016, 2014 and 2012, and convened a panel discussion in 2014. So another means through which we can show collective Commonwealth resolve to address the freedom of the media is by working together to implement the UN Action Plan on the safety of journalists and the issues of impunity. So the plan aims to create a free and safe environment for journalists and media workers, including social media producers of public interest journalism, with a view to strengthening peace, democracy and development worldwide. And in this context, there are Commonwealth initiatives which I'd like to focus, if I may, just for a minute or two, because I really welcome the plans of the Institute of Commonwealth Studies to set up the Centre for Media Freedom. This would complement and reinforce the continuing work of the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative and the Commonwealth Journalists Association, and help strengthen the adherence of institutions in our member states to Commonwealth values and to existing commitments by the international community in the field of media and governance. So the Centre could also complement the work of the Secretariat's Human Rights team, the Commonwealth Office of Civil and Criminal Justice Reform, which I've referred to already, and the work that we are planning at the Secretariat to develop Commonwealth model media guidelines for journalists during elections. The purpose of the latter is to strengthen our distinctive Commonwealth contribution to delivery of free and fair elections and to encourage fair and balanced media coverage of issues and candidates during election campaigns. And in particular, we see the need to assist electoral management bodies with the monitoring of media performance and encouragement of responsible reporting. And as defenders and guardians of the fundamental democratic freedoms of citizens, the challenge for electoral management bodies is to how to deal with increasing ownership and control of the media by political parties and vested interests. And this is closely allied to the tendency for partisan and polarised media coverage, which leads in turn to decrease public trust in media, whether state and or privately controlled. So among the very serious threats to media freedom are the numbers of reporters around the world who daily put their lives at risk in order to investigate and publish stories. So we pay tribute to those who have paid the ultimate price in defence of freedom of speech, and as a Commonwealth we stand in total solidarity and solemn remembrance with them. We remain committed to promoting and safeguarding the right of all people to express themselves through the medium of their choice, whether they are young or old, rich or poor, and whether they work in the mainstream media or are whistleblowers uncovering corruption or malfeasance. The immediacy of the digital age enables social media users to filter their own views and interact far more directly at all levels, including with public institutions. And such accessibility should encourage greater transparency and accountability. And yet, trust in public institutions is declining. So we need reliable sources, not sensationalist approaches that mislead and misinform. And the question, therefore, is how do we strike the right balance between the right to freedom of expression and the need for respect and understanding? How we answer this question has implications relating to the freedom to be who we are, to say who we are, and to say what we think. And the current tensions and pressures for deplatforming of dissenting voices at universities and other institutions, I think, raises questions also. So our celebration of a peace-building Commonwealth means that we regard with respect and understanding the voices and attitudes of those with whom we differ. And this means that a freely communicating Commonwealth will not necessarily always be the most comfortable Commonwealth for everyone. But it means that we will be a Commonwealth in which the enrichment of diverse voices adds to our wisdom, and through free expression and sympathetic listening, in a spirit of goodwill, respect, we will hopefully gain consensus, and that's where harmony can be found. So we are in need of a peace-building Commonwealth. And I believe that if we choose, each and every one of us, we will build such a Commonwealth which will endure to the advantage of the 2.4 billion citizens within it, but also, I believe, will make a real contribution to the global understanding of what true peace actually means. Thank you very much.